Good morning, everyone. It's 8:45 and we'll begin. I'm Crystal Thomas. I'm the Managing Director for the Golden State Chapter. We'd just certainly like to welcome you to our webinar this morning. This webinar is being recorded and will later be posted out on our website so that anyone that wasn't able to maybe be present with us today will be able to view at a later time. If for any reason you disconnect or our speakers disconnect, just bear with us for a moment and everybody will come back. Same will happen if anybody on our team has the same issue. Most times technology works perfectly, just every once in a while it doesn't. If you have any questions, we'll be saving those until the end. So go ahead and put them in the Q&A and then we will from there ask the questions at the end of the presentation. There are 3 education and 1 activity credits available for today. So that's awesome. This whole virtual education opportunity for us, I'll tell you, it is just, when I say for us, I'm talking about for our members, has really, really been terrific. And there will be some polls throughout the sessions, and you must respond to those polls in order to get your education credits. It's a way that we prove to CMA that you are actually there. So our layout for today is we'll do a business meeting, then we'll do the introduction of our partner sponsors. We'll have our education, we'll take a break. Approximately 10:30 to 10:45, we'll see how that's coming out for us. And we'll be completed by noon. That's our plan. So again, I'm going to talk about the 3 polls throughout the morning. You must complete these polls in order to get, excuse me, your education credits. So let's move into our business meeting. And at this time, I'd like to introduce the Golden State Chapter's Secretary Treasurer, Todd Hale, CCM. First of all, let's get the credential correct. And he is the COO General Manager at San Diego Country Club. And Todd is going to deliver our business meeting this morning. Todd, take it away.
Morning, everybody. Nice to see some happy, smiling, friendly faces. Happy belated 2021 and to all of you. We get a unit of credit for this, so I will try to be concise with this business meeting that we normally do, usually in person. So again, welcome. Thanks for everybody being here today. Today, our webinar is a multi-host one sponsored by our Pearl partners. We want to welcome Advanced Exercise, represented by Ruth Saxon. Eustace Chairs, represented by Brian Langhorst. GSI Executive Search Representative, Terry Anglin. And Members First, represented by Don Taylor. Crystal will introduce all of them, of course, after the business meeting. New member update. Fantastic news here. We've got 12 new members for January, which is great. Excuse in advance if I butcher any of these names, but I'd like to go through them as we would like to acknowledge our new members. Shannon Chamberlain, Food and Beverage Director at Del Paso Country Club. Michael Adams, Executive Chef at Menlo Circus Club, excuse me. Hannah Hawthorne, Assistant Golf Professional at Bel Air Country Club. Nicholas Caravallo is the Food and Beverage Supervisor at Hidden Brook Golf Club. Courtney Nakashima is the Director of Special Events and Meetings at Half Moon Bay Golf Links. Stephanie Collins, Executive Assistant at Toscana Country Club. Norma Stasis is the Controller at the Pacific Club. Great spot, my former first place I ever worked. Donald Zahner is the Resort General Manager at PJ West Resort. Justin Stelzer is the Assistant General Manager and Director of Golf at Rancho La Quinta Country Club. 3 more on the list: Eddie Villanueva, Controller at the Academy of Magical Arts and Magic Castle. John Creaney is the General Manager at Kings River Golf and Country Club. And finally, Rob Tanaka, General Manager at Santa Ana Country Club. So we've already added 3 new members for February, bringing our year total to 17. Glad to see so many of you. I've been taking the opportunity to invite your team members to join now. If you'd like to sponsor anyone to join, please reach out to our chapter office to assist you. Upcoming events, mark your calendars. As you've seen probably the brief that came out, we are in a Monterey mood for our spring conference. We're kicking it off with a come and go virtual partner show that'll be May 19th to the 21st. And then Tuesday the 25th is our 6-hour CMI, which normally we do in person, but it'll be virtual. And then that evening will be a virtual cocktail party with 1 activity credit. Conference and then will again on May 26th, we will end with a 3-hour education, a charcuterie competition, various drawings, and more throughout the conference. So it should be quite fun. So get involved if you can. This Thursday, we have our week 3 of Women's Series, very successful Busy Club in High Heels, how to rock it, rock it. So clever. Had a very busy club. Next Tuesday, the 23rd, we have a 1-hour webinar on e-procurement success at a top club, examining the argument for making a leap. Again, presented by Cedar Creek Systems. Another event next Thursday, the 25th, will be week 4 of our women's series, as I just mentioned, but this time it'll be motherhood and club management, how to navigate these waters. And finally, February 26th, which is a Friday, we have a 1-hour webinar on safety is good business, presented by Interwest Insurance. You may or may not know, but we do have a podcast, Clubs Creating a Podcast for California Clubs. This month, Eric Vanderwerf, the GM at La Cumbra, shares his tips for success. So a couple other things before we conclude, one being CMAA news. It's time to cast your ballot. Online voting is now open. Credible slate of candidates prepare to serve your CMA 2021 Board of Director Representatives. Please visit cmaa.org/vote to learn more about each candidate. Eligible voters may request an online voting authorization through 9 a.m. Pacific time on March 11th of 2021. Thanks in advance for participating in CMA's annual education process. I can't tell you how it is actually important to do this, as the more votes that we in California get, the more leverage, if you will, as we go forward with future board of director elections. It's that time of year and we ask for your contribution of the wine and wine experiences, the IWS wine auction. This is our opportunity to win the Bucky again for contributing the most value in wine or wine experiences in the large chapter categories, again, being from California. It's pretty important for us to be showcasing our Napa, Sonoma, Paso Robles, Santa Barbara, anybody else for wine. Look for a direct email coming your way this week with all the details, and then look in advance for your participation. So at this time, I hope I got enough information to all of you. I'd like to adjourn our business meeting. If there's nothing else for me, Crystal, I'd like for you to introduce our partners for this multi-host education session.
Todd, thank you so much. It was great. So yes, we're so excited about our attendance today. I only see 65 up so far, but I was just texted, we have 115 and counting that have registered for today. So that's really, really incredible. So before we get started with our education, we're going to introduce our sponsoring partners. And today is a multi-host webinar, and we have 4 sponsoring partners. Just so grateful for every single partner that we have, and particularly for these 4 today for sponsoring. And I'll introduce each one, and we'll do it in alphabetical order. And all 4 of our partners today are Pearl partners with the chapter. So our first partner up is Ruth Saxon, who is the representative from Advanced Exercise. And Advanced Exercise is a leading fitness equipment and design, facility design resource specialized in consultation, facility design, equipment selection, virtual plus, on-demand platforms, and more. So with us today, as I said, we have Ruth Saxon. Ruth is a fitness design consultant, wellness flooring specialist who's worked as a facility design expert for 15 years. She's committed to helping communities as diverse as Gold's Gym, the YMCA, USC, UCLA, create and maintain their fitness and wellness environments, fitting the best equipment and layouts together to meet current needs and long-lasting benefits. Some of our current clients include UCSD, Chapman University, Hoag Hospital, the Lakes Country Club, and the Vintage Club. So welcome, Ruth. Why don't you just take a moment and tell us about some of the trends in fitness this year and how you see things opening up in 2021?
Sure. Thank you so much, Crystal and Alex and Jessica, for having me on. And it's good to see everyone's faces. It's been a while. Miss our in-persons, but I'm glad to have this opportunity. Fitness trends that I have been seeing 100% across the board is getting your fitness centers from inside to outside. I've been working with Riverside clubs, Orange County, San Diego, Ventura, pretty much everything in Southern California except for LA County, in getting some of their fitness equipment outside, helping you guys reorganize what you currently have, and then also helping you guys purchase additional things for your members to work out outside, whether that's hosting classes or just getting some outdoor flooring for you, helping with pop-ups, helping figure out what your members actually want, and then really making it fit into your budget that you have. Not trying to recreate the wheel, but just make sure that your members are getting the amenities that they want, and keeping everyone happy. What I see for 2021 is just that trend is moving a lot of our stuff outside, as we've seen opening of the fitness centers and closing, 10% inside, 0% inside, and just a lot of things happening in California and not a lot of consistency. And it's frustrating for all of us here and all of our members. So I've been able to help you guys a lot with creating some solutions that are out of the box, as far as keeping everybody happy. I think that's it, Crystal.
Ruth, thank you so much. Really appreciate it. It looks like you got a good rig set up behind you there. So that's great. So thank you. Next up, we're going to introduce Brian Langhorst, who is the owner of Eustace Chair. And Brian is president and owner of Eustace Chair LLC, headquartered in Boston, and they've been a part of the chapter for several years now. Eustace Chairs manufactures the highest stacking wooden stacking chairs available. Brian and his young family live in historic Charleston. So welcome, Brian. Glad that you're here with me today, here with us today, not just me. And why don't you take a minute and just tell us about Eustace Chair and what you're working on in 2021?
Hi, Crystal. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for having us. We are always so proud to partner with the California State Chapter. And it's a unique geography that we actually find more club customers in California than we do in New England. I think because of our sustainability and the functionality of our chairs, there's just a special connection with our US made chairs. We've been busy in the pandemic. We've been introducing new chairs. We actually have 3 new models that are going to be coming out for the National CMAA show in just a couple weeks time here. And so we've been happy to partner with a couple of designers to come up with these new chairs. So there's a ballroom chair that stacks up to 10 chairs high and kind of has some classic lines and could be a great alternative for like a Chiavari-like experience, but much more comfortable and much more elegant, but has some really nice lines to it. Another one is kind of a more member dining chair that we're calling the Stonebridge chair, that we worked with the designer for Stonebridge Country Club down in Boca in Florida. And this chair is our most generous, most comfortable chair, and it still stacks. So it's a very hefty chair, but oh my gosh, long meetings, long dinners, wine dinners, executive meetings, anything of the sort. This chair is absolutely going to be everyone's favorite, hands down. So we're really excited to be releasing that. So we've been working hard on that, and then also releasing a new line of tables. So for the past 30 years of building the best chairs in the world, our chairs have always gone underneath somebody's tables. And so we finally have kind of dedicated some design time to actually designing our own table line that can either have tablecloths or not. And the unique thing is that the legs can easily be removed so that you can completely break down your dining floor or your banquet floor and have great looking tables that are made in America and extremely durable with a 20-year warranty, but they can easily store on carts and be moved away.
Wow. Will you be rolling those out at the CMAA show?
Yes.
Hopefully we'll see those at the Golden State Chapter show as well.
Absolutely. I plan on being there, or at least, here on Zoom.
Virtually. Yep.
Yeah.
However, yep, we'll see. We'll see. Well, thank you so much, Brian. Really appreciate it.
My pleasure.
So we're going to move on now to GSI Executive Search, represented by Terry England. Terry is certainly no stranger to this chapter, of course, as you all know Terry from his background in the chapter. So GSI Executive Search is a Pearl partner represented by Terry England, CCM, CCE, ECM, and principal of GSI Executive Search. GSI is one of the nation's leading recruitment firms specializing in placements for the private club and hospitality industries. Terry has over 40 years of experience in the private club and hospitality industry. He served as the general manager of private clubs in Tennessee and California, and most recently served as the GM COO of San Diego Yacht Club. Terry retired from the San Diego Yacht Club and has joined GSI Executive Search, I'm going to say almost a year ago, but it could be 3, about a year ago, I'm just going to say. So welcome, Terry. Thanks for being here. And tell us just a little bit about what's happening at GSI. And is there anything that members should be really taking to heart these days?
Thank you, Crystal. Good morning, everyone. Happy New Year, as my friend Todd Hale said. Sorry we're a little late saying Happy New Year to you. GSI is really focusing in 2021 on reaching out to our partners, and that's what we consider all of our clubs in the state of California and across the country on a more personal basis. With the COVID, we're not able to travel around and visit clubs as we normally would. So one of the keys is reaching out via this type of instrument and our phone calls or emails or text messages, whatever it may be. As Crystal said, GSI has been doing this for a long time. We're 20 plus years in the business. And a couple of highlights about GSI, our placement process. We're known for placements, and that's our primary source of business that we do. But we really get involved and become, as I said, a partner with the club. One of the things that we do in our initial process is we interview the board, key staff members, trying to find the person who has the right culture that would fit into the club. We think that's extremely important. Too many times I've seen managers get placed who are extremely technical, but whose personality doesn't work. As Crystal said, I was at San Diego Yacht Club. I will tell you, my personality would not work at a club in the Northeast. I'm not that. I'm more of a California guy. I'm not that tie every day to work. One of the other things that we do with GSI is we're very conscious and handle our searches with a sense of urgency. We know that the GM, the president doesn't want to be the GM of the club, so we try to get that done. And then we also communicate very intensely with the clubs that we're representing, so they know what our process is and what's going on. In addition to the placements, though, we try to be a one-stop shop as much as possible for our member partners. We also furnish strategic planning, board governance, operational audits and turnarounds. And we're here to go ahead and do those kinds of things. Everybody knows how to get a hold of me. I'm not a stranger to you all. One of the other things that we're doing coming up is if all you yacht clubbers out there, Jack Sullivan and I and Nadine Rockwell are going to be running the Yacht Club Manager Symposium at the World Conference on Club Management. And I believe that Bob Jones, my boss here at GSI, and I are going to be doing a presentation for the spring conference there. And just so you know, we're not just GM search people either. We do controllers and chefs, and I did a marina manager recently. So any needs that you may have are just to talk and get some benefit of my 40 years of hanging around the business. Please feel free to reach out to me, and I look forward to hearing from you soon and hope to see every one of you in person fairly quickly. Thanks, Crystal.
Thanks, Terry. Awesome. And then last but not least is Members First, Don Taylor. And again, Don's certainly no stranger to us either. And Members First is a Pearl partner. And Don has spent over 15 years with Members First, working with hundreds of clients to enhance their digital presence and online membership marketing and communication programs with a focus on increasing member engagement, member satisfaction, and member participation. So Don, thanks so much for being here with us today. And why don't you tell us just a little bit about what's happening at Members First and any updates on your services for 2021?
Of course. Thank you so much, Crystal, Alex, and Jessica for having me. And thank you for all of you as well. We're thrilled to be here as always with the Golden State chapter. For Members First, we actually wrapped up 2020 with some exciting news from the IMA Awards, which is an interactive media agency that we submit multiple club designs to, website designs to, and 10 of the clubs that we recently designed won awards. Best in class and overall quality design. So we were super excited about that. Woodland Hills in California was actually one of them. So we put together some fun trophies and a letter from our president and sent those out for our clients to display. And then in 2021, we are working on a bunch of product enhancements with our T-sheet, a reservation system, and our mobile app, as well as our e-newsletter service. We also launched a new service for new member onboarding, which was actually came out of 2020, where a lot of clubs are just adding so many new members with this pandemic what we've been in. So we put together a new member onboarding service where it comes complete with a new member microsite. We set up targeted emails that go out to your new members at certain intervals. So as a new member, they get a certain email, and then at 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, etc. And then also some new member surveys. So that's a great new service that we're excited about. We just launched it this quarter. And then we're hiring. So we are growing at Members First, which we're also super excited about. So we are looking for to add to our client services management team, our marketing services team, as well as a sales account manager. So if any of you know anybody who's interested, and like Brian, we are headquartered here in New England, and I look out my window at a little rain and snow mix once again today, but they don't necessarily have to be here in New England. So especially with so many people working from home this year, our team has really recognized that we can hire anywhere. So if anyone does know anybody, please send them my way. We'd be thrilled to talk to them. And thank you again so much for having us.
Well, thank you, Dawn. And we're so pleased again that you're partners, and we're pleased that all four of you this morning that are sponsoring are partners of the chapter.
Thank you.
I'm going to go ahead and introduce our speakers for today. I'm going to introduce Toni, Shibayama, and Matthew. I will begin with Toni. For the past 20 years, Toni and her team have helped hundreds of business owners through strategic programs that mitigate lawsuits, foster workplace diversity, enhance performance management, and nurture innovation. Her expertise is in the hospitality and private club injury. How's that? Private club injury. Let's just back that up and talk about the private club industry, where she focuses on injury prevention, leadership skills, emotional intelligence, and helping to enhance the membership experience all round. Toni's been a featured speaker for the Golden State Chapter Club managers in the past, as well as club benchmarking, where she's focused on insurance and risk management for private clubs and providing solutions in human resources and insurance coverage. Her unique skills at managing workers' compensation and safety compliance has also led her to serve as a contributing author for such prestigious industry publications as Boardroom, California Broker, Insurance Business America, and Construction Executive, among others. Toni attended the Marshall School of Business at the University of Southern California and holds multiple industry designations, including her master's in workers' comp, which is an MWC, senior professional in human resources, her SPHR, and certified wellness and benefits advisor, CWBA. Wow, that's a pretty big sandwich board you have to wear, Toni. So Toni, thank you so much for being here with us today. And now I'm going to go ahead and introduce Matthew Allnatt. Matthew is the operating officer of Jonathan Club for the past 10 years. Matthew graduated over 35 years ago from London University with a degree in hospitality management. Matthew's career has taken him throughout the world, working in hotels, restaurants, hotels, resorts, I should say, and restaurants. In 1989, Matthew was exposed to his first private club, the Coral Beach and Tennis Club in Bermuda. 31 years later, Matthew continues in the private club field, running one of the largest clubs in the world with 2 facilities and in excess of 700 employees. His passion and love of the hospitality business continues today with a philosophy of providing an extraordinary experience and vision to be the very best for his members and his team of great staff members. Matthew, we'd love to welcome you as well. So Toni and Matthew, take it away.
Good morning, everybody. So this is our educational webinar. We are going to have it interactive today. Don't be scared. We do have a lot of slides. Really wanted to start off with, we're going to be going over some chapters of my latest book, and you may take some notes. We actually created something called the AHA sheet. So just some housekeeping you should have received. I believe it's called discussion notes. So make sure you print that out. We're actually going to have you break out into 4 sessions, about 10 minutes each. But I really think the second to last document is really the most important for you all as we send you into these breakout sessions, is writing down some of those aha moments so you can take back some of that information to your team. A little bit about the book. So in working with clubs, I was always surprised to see how is it that basically the same footprint, 2 different clubs, and I would be giving them 2 completely different renewals, and one being 50% more. And in looking at it, I kind of looked at going backwards in time and saying, why is it that the footprint is exactly the same? Actually identical. Number of people, number of departments, square footage. But why are the costs so escalated versus this one? And it really came down to the human element. What we're going to be discussing is not going to be new. These are really going to be thought-provoking, nice reminders to you all. Believe it or not, we're not going to try and talk about COVID, right? I think we're all over COVID. This is really more for really enhancing that experience of your members as we go into 2021, as we're already there. But really, it's kind of stepping back my years of being in the hospitality industry, and also too, being available 24/7 and seeing the various calls come in. It's a compilation of some war stories. It's some compilation of some losses, but also too, at the end of the day, I think we really want this educational series to be some nice reminders for you all and some feedback that you can take back to not only your club, your leadership, and also to your board as well too. I have a good friend, mentor, contributor to my book as well too, Matthew Allnatt, and we've been working with a couple of clubs together. What I would say is our relationship is such where I remember in one of our meetings, you said, if I am not doing something right, you need to stop me and tell me before it hits me. And I've always remembered that I need to get in front of it, make sure they're aware of it, and hopefully you gather some information for our discussion points as well too. So again, we're going to be going over some chapters. We thought maybe there's going to be 20 people arriving today, right, Matthew?
That's correct.
We have a lot of people here today, so we are going to try and cut it down. We're not going to have 8 breakout sessions. We are going to actually have 4 as well too. Oh, Chaz, technology. Here we go. So you've already seen our faces. You know who we are. My name's Toni, and this is Matthew, and we're going to go into the specifics of the various chapters as well too. So next slide, please, Chaz. Is it working now? Fantastic. Mission accomplished. Okay. So what are we going to be going over? It's really kind of prevention and success leading to lowering costs and a better member experience, and looking at some of those fundamentals and what goes into them as well too. The goal is really to look at what is the plan, or do we even have a plan, or are we planning to fail as well too? And what is the communication that you have with your team right now as well? So we picked about 8 chapters. We're going to be breaking you out into various sessions as well too. I think we picked our top 4 where we're going to actually have you go out, talk with your peers, come up with one of your main discussion topics and share with us as well too. So Jessica, if you wanted to kind of do some housekeeping here as it relates to the breakout sessions.
Sure. I don't think I spotlighted myself, but so what we're going to do is you're going to go into breakout sessions. We're going to be in groups of about 6 people. You're going to be in there for 10, 11 minutes. There's a handout. I'll put the link for the handout in the chat box in just a second. And just make sure you participate. When we come back, we're going to have one captain that's going to be the speaker. And, as in past sessions, the more we interact with each other, the more engaging it is and the more we get from the session. So if we could all do that, that'd be amazing.
Fantastic. And I know some of you may be camera shy, but hopefully you'll be able to upload, be present, and be part of that discussion as well too. So, so the first chapter that we're going to be talking about is your game day. So we're going to be talking about game day and what does that look like? Really, at the end of the day, when we look at that, we are looking at your vision. Where is the club going for 2021? Do they have an idea? Do they have a roadmap? I was recently at a club. I was doing kind of a little site tour, taking pictures for risk management. And I asked one of the employees there, what's the vision for the club? And I'm like a 4-year-old. I like to ask a lot of questions when I'm on site. And the gentleman said quickly, it's S&S. And I go, really? What does that mean? Safety and service. And I said, fantastic, easy to understand, right? Rolled off the tongue. And I said, can you tell me how that it impacts your particular department? And he went on to describe, well, I need to be safe, not only for myself, for my department, for the members and vendors. And here's what we have to do. Fantastic. Well, what about the other S? Well, the other S has to do with service. Everything that we do has to be service, has to be at that excellence. And if we're good, we need to be great. And I said, fantastic. And so I knew right then and there, the culture knew what that vision was. I then went, because again, I'm a 4-year-old curious. I then went to the dishwasher and I said, what is the new goal? What is the vision for 2021? And one of the things I think we have to remind ourselves is we have the leadership meetings, but are your leaders actually bringing that information down to all of the levels of employees, down to your line employees? Do they carry that level of enthusiasm? Not to say they need the tattoo of what your vision and goals are, but are they able to articulate it and tie it back to their particular job? So I asked this dishwasher, I heard you got this S&S. I was like, okay, what does this mean? And he mentioned to me, he goes, this is the first time that I actually understood how important my job was. And again, me being the 4-year-old, well, tell me how. Well, if I don't do a really good job of washing the dishes and cleaning the pots and pans, then it impacts the kitchen staff and their ability to do their job. If I don't stack the dishes away in a certain way, then it impacts the level of service. Also, too, if I see there's a chip, a crack, an imperfection in what we have, then I need to bring it up to my boss as well, too. And I just thought, wow, that's amazing. Not only do we've set the course for 2021, something easy to understand, and actually, too, tying that person's job to the overall vision of the club as well, too. So, Matthew, in regards to, I see certain clubs that they have this very big aspirational vision, but a lot of times what I tend to see is that it's only stays within maybe that executive team. What have you seen or what's worked here at the Jonathan Club in regard to executing that vision?
Well, I think, what's interesting for us is that we have 2 facilities. So, and they are very different in their feel. And so what we try to do is keep it as simple as possible. And I think for us, our mission statement is to enrich the lives of our members. And it's very simple, I know, but everything that we do is about that enrichment, creating this lifestyle for our members. We probably go a little bit overboard, and we're constantly, jiggering with the types of meetings we have with our teams to try and make sure that information goes down. And a lot of it just has to do with somebody knowing what's going on at the club on a daily basis. So what happens to that valet when a member walks in and goes, why is that big balloon on the beach? And they go, I don't know, some sort of event. And, you know, first of all, that puts the, you know, I think the position of the employee makes it difficult that they feel stupid. They don't know what's happening at the place they work, but then also the member wonders what, you know, who do we go to? Who do we ask? And on occasions, it can be that, you know, we don't talk to the employees. We have to go and find a manager to find out what's happening at the club. So how do you help that information go through? I mean, we have an executive team, we have a leadership team, and then we have our management team, which is about 60 managers. The managers I meet with, we do a big kumbaya quarterly. So that's where we talk about where are we going, what's important to us. We call it our caring culture. But then there's every 2 weeks, we have a meeting with our leadership team, which we've just increased to about 23 managers.
Wow.
And their job is to make sure, and we have quizzes at our quarterly meetings to make sure that information then is going separately down. It's a lot of meetings, but as I said, with 700 employees, we have to do that. Our executive team is more visionary. They meet monthly, and it's really looking at the bigger picture. Are we on track with our business plan? Are we on track with our visions? But again, I go back to when I first met you 22 years ago. A weekly meeting of 12 department heads was really all I needed. You know, it's much more intimate, which may be the case for many of the clubs, I think. If you
The Thursday or Wednesday morning meeting, right? And everyone has kind of that roll call.
Yep.
And what's kind of interesting is that when you actually see the roll call, a lot of people just kind of go, it's the same old, same old. It's the same events as every year.
Yep.
And so, you know, obviously there needs to be that motivation. It needs to be infectious and it needs to be pushed down, I think, down to all the ranks to make sure that they understand where we're going as a team. So, you know, just looking at this visual here, your job is really to give your team the vision that they can't see. You're basically creating, here is where we're going. Or is it like that gentleman with the blindfold and just going, I guess this is where we are. I guess this is where we're going. Or do you have a clear path for them as well too? So again, like I said, I had a lot of breakout sessions. We're going to go down to 4, but these are some questions to ask yourself and maybe put those on your aha list as well too. Just some things, again, in regards to action items. Do they see it? Do they understand? If I were to do a walkthrough at your club and I asked your dishwasher or greenskeeper or head of engineering, where's the club going? How quickly would they answer? Or would they say, I have absolutely no idea whatsoever? So again, kind of one of those things to do kind of a gut check as it relates to, here's where I'm thinking we're going and making sure that the team sees it as well too. This visual here is just really, your leaders need to lead, but they really have to do a great job of inspiring and motivating. I know it's tough right now, so even more so, and keeping an eye, we'll talk a little bit about wellness, a little bit of mental health and everything as well too. We're having to be a little bit more sympathetic, empathetic, but also too, as a manager, making sure we're motivating at the same time as well too. Keep it simple, right? They say, keep it simple, stupid. S&S, I thought it was brilliant because everyone could understand it. What is your vision? What is your goal for 2021? Can everybody recite it? And do they understand what it means to them as well too? Chapter 3 is the need for a good coaching staff. So you are named head coach, okay? But now you have all your assistant coaches. Matthew mentioned his leadership team as well too. Unfortunately, I don't get a chance to do a lot of the anti-harassment training, my 2-hour training. What I loved when I was able to do the 2-hour training is I got to remind your managers to be honest, fair, consistent, a little bit of wage and hour reminder, a little bit about documentation. But when I would do some of those trainings, the one thing that always stood out to me is I said, what's your number one job other than making sure your employees are safe? Is I said, you need to actually unlock that potential in your employees. I said, you actually need to, it's not about you anymore. It's about them. The ironic thing is really, really good employees, when then transferred to a management role, it's a very difficult transition because they're only me, myself, and I. When they're now a manager, it's all about the team. And so do your managers realize that they're supposed to coach the best in their employees? And I constantly ask that for managers and leaders, and they kind of look at me like, well, my employees are here. They're not drunk, and I don't think they're harassing people. That's my job. I said, well, I think there might be a little bit more to that in regards to coaching. I think one of the things, not only do they have to motivate, they have to teach and coach. One of the things in military or also in HR is we run to friction, right? Something's a problem. There's an issue, there's a fire, there's an injury. We run to it. What I found with managers and leaders is sometimes they run away from friction. And if you're a leader or a department head and you're not able to face some of those difficult conversations, you're going to be losing that trust as well too. So one of the things is really at the end of the day, sometimes when I would look at skyrocketing costs, my question would be, what department is this coming from? Who's managing this department? Are people happy? And I said, this may be a phenomenal person who contributes and is loyal, but are they the right assistant coach? Do they have the keys to be a wonderful leader? Okay. They always say people don't leave a corporation or a company or club. They leave their manager, supervisor, and boss as well too. So in regards to, management and leadership, I know that we're going to have a breakout session for this one here. Is what are you doing to make sure you have the best coaches leading your team? That's one question for the breakout session. Also, two, do they inspire change, encourage growth, and develop employees? What I find sometimes is I will ask managers, supervisors, and leads, who is going to be promoted? Who are you training for leadership positions? Who is the rookie? How are you developing your players on your team? And they kind of give me this glazed look of, is that my job? And I said, absolutely, that is your job. Actually, some of the best leaders are ones that create future leaders as well too. So we're going to give you about 10 minutes. Again, 2 questions. Hopefully you have your handouts here. 2 questions. What are you doing to make sure you have the best coaches leading your teams? And again, are they inspiring change, encouraging growth, and developing your employees as well too? So Jessica is going to be putting you in your breakout teams. As a reminder, please make sure you choose a captain and do kind of a round robin, gather some feedback, some insight, and we'll see you back in about 10 minutes. All right.
We are back.
Do we have some lucky contenders that would like to actually give us some pearls of wisdom from your breakout room? Does anybody want to raise their hand and contribute? Mr. Conforti.
Good morning. How are you, Tony? Matthew, good job. Great job already.
Thank you.
We talked a lot more about the vision question, and we all agreed that the vision for this year is providing a sense of safety and comfort for our members as they get their confidence in coming back to the club. I know a lot that I've seen, that we've seen from CMAA says that members are going to really want to come back to their clubs first. They know the people that are not just serving them, but their fellow members. So we didn't see, it was interesting. We moved on for vision. We didn't see it as a yearly thing. That we talked about, if there are some 5-year plans in place or longer term plans or visioning in place, what did 2020 do to that? And it would be a really interesting discussion to see what clubs are now doing to tack, if not forever, but for the next few years based on the 2020 and into 2021 experience. The The last thing we talked about in terms of having a change in tack was, some of our clubs, especially those in our breakout session, are really looking heavily at the bottom line. Not that we all don't focus on it, but what effect that's had on our level of services. So frankly, the clubs that we were talking with in our breakout group was, there was a lot of things that we had to temporarily get rid of for the last year. How does that fit into what vision the club will have moving forward? When do we restart? How will that tie into our next few years based on the 2020 experience?
Right. Fantastic. Thank you, David. Any lucky contenders here? I'm looking at hands. We have a lot of antisocial people not on camera here today. Okay, let me see here. Do we have some contribution? Jessica, let me know if you see.
Yeah. What about somebody from like Beth Hunter's group? I'm just kind of going down the groups. Is there anyone in Beth Hunter's group who would like to speak up about what they talked about?
Toni, this is Bill. I can go if you'd like.
Fantastic, Bill. Thank you.
First of all, I want to encourage everybody. Go on Amazon. If you're a Prime member, you'll get the book in one day. And I've had the book for about a month now. And Toni, congratulations on it.
Thank you so much, Bill. We have a surprise for everybody at the end about the book, so keep going.
Don't order it yet.
Our group was interesting in the makeup, as we had one current and two former employees of Hacienda Golf Club. One being, Russell, their GM, Nadine, who's now at the Jonathan Club, but is a former Hacienda member, and a true old timer, our buddy, past president of the Golden State Chapter, Frank Cordero, who called in from Dallas, Texas to join us today, our Fort Worth, Texas. He's freezing back there, but
Little snowstorm.
And then we had Julian Fenton from here in the San Gabriel Valley. But anyway, Kirk Reese was also in our group, so it was great to have a view of vision from somebody that practices teaching governance so much. I think the group as a whole had really some good input in regard to how they're planning vision, somewhat setting up for what is going to be the new normal in our society. And we probably could have gone on another 5-10 minutes, to be perfectly honest with you.
Fantastic, fantastic. Matthew, can you share with us as far as what you're doing in regards to for your leadership team and elevating their level of understanding of their role?
Well, I mean, I think, for us, we obviously hire for a certain key characteristics. One is attitude. We believe we can teach a manager anything, so attitude is incredibly important. I think empathy is another thing that we hire for, someone with a big heart. They understand caring for people. That's both our members and our staff, and I think that really shone through. I think if the word that I've come back from my staff is the empathy, not only the club has shown, but the management has shown to their team members during this. Some of our furloughed employees, we have about 60 right now, receiving a phone call every week from HR, just checking in with them. How are they doing? Knowing that we care. And now, as Saul was saying, where are we going next? I mean, that's for us, this has been a great accelerant, believe it or not, in where we're going. But also now it's our vision has kind of tweaked again. So how are we going to communicate it? And you're kind of tying into, and I can certainly talk to people offline. We have a new form of kind of a strategic intent document, a two-sided laminated document that also shows our 3-year plan. This is in development. It's about a month away, but we actually want to give that to the board of directors too, because that is, sometimes I think we have all these wonderful ideas about vision and all of those things, but then the members come and screw it up for us because they're in for their year and they want to do this and head off in this direction. It's like, well, that was a waste of time, you know, and so we're trying to create something that the board has on what our vision is, what we care about, our SWOT analysis. They know it, they understand it, and then I can then bring that down to the staff, because I just don't like that banging against the shores, which happens at many clubs and happened to me on just an incredible amount of occasions. So I think, yes, you've got to give that vision to your staff, but you've got to make sure the members and the leadership understand it and they support it, because otherwise you're going to get, like I said, some creative board president coming in who works for some company somewhere and they have a way of doing things, or they'll have an opinion, and then you start to go off kilter again.
So it's on paper, it has metrics, it has your core values, and you have your SWOT analysis on it. So everybody sees it, everybody understands it, and they're digesting it along with the board.
Yep, along with the board, with you know, what are our 5 key pillars for success? Those are all on there. And then what are the things that are going to go on in the next 3 years to achieve those pillars of success? Those are then given to the leadership team, then they're given to the management team, and they will review it. And in some cases also present to the board on how they're doing in some of those areas.
You have a clear direction.
Yep.
With metrics and
Yes.
timelines.
Scary to think.
Well, you know, one of the things is, you know, one is I always ask, how are you doing? And they go, I'm not quite sure. Or are we on track to meet your goals? And they go, that's a great question. So if you can kind of lay it out and say, here's the path, here's where we're going, but also to make sure all the managers are on board. Those that are not on board, should they be part of your executive leadership team as well too? Because it's key that, again, they're enforcing these good behaviors, communicating this all the way down, and living and breathing it day in and day out as well too. So Chaz, if you could close that out, and then I'm gonna keep going as well too. How many breakout sessions do we do? 12 already, or just one? Just joking. Okay, here we go.
I think Rita had a question or a comment on that last section.
Sure.
You know, I had a comment, and I had a thought process, because I've been fortunate enough to work with our managers for a long period of time. And I've also seen some of them come up through the ranks, but Matthew made a comment about empathy, and I thought how well that served us in this past year. Being empathetic and responsive to our members and responsive to our staff. I think that's such an important part of our coaching, is that everyone realized it together, that was the path. Again, I'm fortunate that I've been working with our management team for about 12 years. So the leadership came through and the teamwork came through, but empathy certainly played a large role there. So thank you.
Absolutely, absolutely. You know, I know the buzzword in HR is emotional intelligence. If you don't have it, I don't know how you could be a productive leader without empathy and understanding the other person's point of view as well too. Just some of the action items here. You'll see one is a job description. I have a love affair of 3 things, and aside from my husband, but I have my employee manual is one. Love an employee manual. It's the rules of the game, but who has to enforce them? Your managers, supervisors, and leads. Hopefully they read it past the vacation sick days, right? The second is a job description. Who do you have? Why are you hiring them? Are you creating an orientation program? And are they doing their job as well too? I think whenever I train managers, I go, I want to lower your stress and drama. They go, fantastic. What is it? I use the job description, please. And don't just bring it up when someone's at the clinic because they've been hurt or injured as well too. And I really do think that you need to teach your managers some of the basics of HR, right? By the time it comes to HR, I believe it's already a fire. So empathy, you mentioned that too as well. I'm going to talk a little bit about that, but in regard to if someone's going, hey, you know, my sister has COVID, my mother has cancer, I have a disability. How are they reacting to that? And I know they may be looking at the schedule, but are they responding appropriately, right? And also too, are they being empathetic to the situation while also maintaining the level of service within that department as well too? Very, very difficult, but give your leaders the tools that they need to be successful as well too. Picking the team. So in my book, I talk about the 3 Ps. The first P is your people, right? Right now, we talk about right sizing as well. In my 22 years, I do see that some clubs, as far as expectations in regards to their employees, are you getting the best talent? Are you nurturing the best talent? Or are you just opening up the door and letting anybody come in as well too? I think you need to set expectations. I think you need to put up those hurdles and just not invite anybody into your department as well too. So keep that in place. Somebody doing something? Okay. So in regards to your first P, if you do not do a good job in regards to making sure
Hey there,
you
Keith.
have the
Bill,
best team,
give me a buzz when
you'll
you
have
have
some issues as well too. So keep that in mind. Matthew, have you ever had a situation where you just did not hire the right person?
Yes, not very often, and obviously I meet almost well, I meet every manager who joins our team. It is the leadership or whoever is in charge of that person to make that decision. I'm not there to question it. I'm there to make sure that there are certain indicators I'm looking at that are, as you say, that emotional intelligence that I need to know those people have, so that when I see them interacting, but whether they have the capability to do the job or not, that's really, in many cases, unless it's an IT director or my CFO, I'm getting into not the weeds, but just making sure that that person, when I look at them, do they have those things that we look for: honesty, transparency, a caring attitude, understanding, those sorts of things. But yeah, in fact, we hired a fairly high level position not too long ago, and it's the shortest tenure I've ever had for a leadership team member. It was 1 year, and it was funny because my executive team felt that I needed something to give me more time, and that I was a little bit too involved in this one area of the club. So they looked for someone who maybe was a little bit outside the box, could possibly bring more to the table. And unfortunately, it just didn't work. It wasn't something just with me. I mean, it's the whole team felt that it didn't work. So yes, absolutely, it does happen. On lower levels, it does happen a little bit more frequently with 700 employees. But again, if I lose a dishwasher here and there in 6 months or whatever, I'm really not as concerned as once you get up into that management level. I do think that when I look at clubs that are successful, it's consistent leadership. It starts with the board. Do you have the right governance model in place? But then I also look at the team members and especially the leadership. Is there consistency there? Is everybody saying the same things? I hate this 90-day evaluation or whatever. It's impossible to judge in that period of time. And so, I look at my team members after a year and say, are they the right fit? Do we continue? Where can I help? But you make mistakes. We're dealing with human beings. It's like using the word empathy is great, but you've also got to remember people are going to take advantage of that empathy. The majority of people won't, but you will get that in as part of it. And you must never forget you are dealing with human beings in all of this.
Absolutely. I would say that, by the time there's an issue and it comes to HR, one of the biggest questions I ask people is, well, how long have they been here? And how was their first impression? They go, oh, they've always had a bad attitude. I said, well, do you think it's going to get better with age and time? If someone's not the right fit, please release them back into the ether. Because are we lowering our expectations? Are we disrupting our team? Are we bringing in or keeping someone who's toxic to our culture as well too. Whenever we see, let's say, an HR issue, I will always go back to say, did this happen overnight? And I go, oh, we've had issues the entire time. And my question to them is, but why? You know, I know in the hospitality industry, it seems like we're more of a forgiving heart because we're in hospitality. We have a service heart, but I don't really think that means to lower expectations as well too. Are we going to have dips on the road as far as life? Absolutely. But if someone doesn't really clearly understand your core values of character, respect, those types of things, and we keep them there, what's happening to that department? What's happening to the leadership? You need to hire people to elevate that team, not bring them down constantly as well too. So,
but I think, Tony, to interrupt you also, if you do have that person, and sometimes I certainly remember from my first club that there are individuals that have been at that club for a long time. Yes, they don't fit. They're not part of the culture, but you can't just, people, I love people who say rip off the Band-Aid. It's like, well, yeah, but that's $250,000 of legal fees. So
yeah.
You're much better off as identifying it, boxing it, so you keep the damage under control, and then coming up with a very clear game plan on how you move that individual on. You know, people, you know, as I said, I went into a club at 30 years old. I had a golf pro who'd been there for 15 years. I had a superintendent who reported directly to a committee, never reported to me, even though they meant to. I couldn't just go in and say, you're out of here. You don't, I have 90 days, I figured it out. It's a long-term game plan. And initially you say, let's see if we can work together. But at some point, you know, that the greatest thing you can have happen to you is when a person of significance or an employee comes in and says, you know, I just don't feel like it's working. Then you're like, hallelujah, they get it, they're saying it, take that conversation and, you know, wish them the best, move them onto an organization that will work for them, be a partner in helping that transition. It's not their fault. They weren't taught what the new culture was, what success was. So help them move into something else.
I think you mentioned something is that I don't think they're bad employees. I think they're just in the wrong position and they may not be a fit anymore. I do think in regards to, and one of our things we talk about, you know, our loyal employees, and I do take a look at years of commitment to a club. I might not be able to lift, push and pull as much as I did 25 years ago, but I'm given to the club. So what else could we do here? Where could we put them? It's kind of like a game, and what parts can we fit in? What makes sense? You've contributed so much, and we all have 3 talents. So what are those 3 talents? And if we don't identify those talents, could someone suffer, right? Could there be issues as well too? So looking at our questions here, this is our second breakout, is question 1 is the first P, people. What needs to be done to make your first P amazing? What needs to happen? I know a lot of you have some people that are furloughed. You're looking at bringing people back as well too. A lot of folks in the HR world are calling that right sizing and making sure you have the top talent as well. I would put an asterisk next to that in regards to making sure that doesn't look on the surface of it that you're discriminating as well too. Also, do you have an HR project? I love these. I love it when people call me with these because I think they're not projects, they're people that are not in the right place at the right time. So where can we get them to that place? And what are you doing about it? The key thing, I think one of the things that Matthew mentioned is, again, run to the friction. Someone can't come to the job, doesn't like the manager, doesn't like the club, doesn't like people or members. They're in the wrong job. So bringing that person in closer, coaching them, training them, documenting it, hopefully they realize that this may not be a fit. Maybe I need to look at greener pastures, not forcing them out, but starting with that documentation, I think is key as well too. So as you go into your breakout rooms, one is your club. Well, yes, you have your facilities and your golf courses, but really your biggest asset is your people that make your club amazing and will create that vision for you. But if you don't focus on that first P, it's hard to promote your club. as well too. So what are you doing there? And do you have what I considered an HR project that you carefully either have to surgically remove or put them in a position for success as well too? So on to your breakout sessions. That was an emotional breakout session for us. Anybody, would you like to share what you guys discussed? Some insights, some revelations, or maybe some ahas that you got from your session? Anybody?
Toni, does that mean you were listening in?
You know what? My ears are burning, David.
I don't want to make a habit of this, but we'll start briefly talking about the HR projects. One person of our team made a really good point and said that, it was the pandemic. One of the silver linings was, many of us who downsized, we were able to maybe sort of cut some of the fat of the staff that maybe were hangers on, or that might have been projects. But at the same time, another member of the team said, but it's also been a good chance to see who might have blossomed as a result of the crisis. And now we have to figure out what that future might look for that individual through training opportunities and expanded responsibilities.
So David, we're all looking at reopening, right? And if you had a magic wand and you said, if I could bring back the best, who would it be? Now, over time, right, I see some collateral damage afterwards too. I kind of go, well, what about all of the people that started first versus all of these people? You just have to kind of weigh those options. But if you are going to be the safe haven for reopening and you want the absolute best, you may have to tackle that as well too.
And I would just say as a caveat, well, there's not many of you in the room, but we're blessed to have a union house. So, the rules are pretty strict regarding seniority, and that doesn't always mean you get the best people back. But, our strategy for bringing people back is so important that we may take on some fights with the union to not bring back some people that we may not want. And in some cases, we're looking at re-envisioning parts of our facility to change it so that the skill sets needed are completely different than they are right now. But it's going to be very important to who you bring back, but also the way our members are going to look at us when we come back, because there'll be no excuses, and it's going to happen really quickly. They're going to expect us to open up and everything to be perfect, almost like it was back on February 1 when we closed down. And so we've really got to be ready and make sure we got the right people in place.
Anyone else like to contribute to that before I add something to that as well? What I've noticed is when people are looking to bring back individuals, being devil's advocate, right? An outsider looking in, they'll go, well, we're bringing back these folks because they have these talents, they have these skill sets. And I go, based on what? Show me what you're looking. Do you have a grid in regards to here are all the skill sets, right? And they have they have 12 check marks versus 8, and therefore I'm bringing that person back. Again, race, creed, color, national origin. If I'm going to say that's not fair, what are you using to be a dashboard, right? So on the surface of it, you can say, oh, no, I looked at previous performance evaluations. I looked at job descriptions. I have happy faces, I have sad faces. And truly my intentions in bringing back people are purely based on the business need and their skill set. Now, when I ask people, can I see your grid? And they go, well, Toni, I have no sort of grid. And I go, are you using your gut feeling? And they go, kind of, sort of. And I said, well, again, can I then say I have not been brought back? And I'm seeing my other colleagues being called back. Can I say that's not fair? So again, what is your dashboard? Have your managers been honest? Have they been having a tally sheet of excelling in this, needs improvement here? Now, if you don't do performance reviews, if they're not consistent and people aren't honest and everyone gets a 5 out of 5, Well, then you have to use that, right? Because that's documentation that you have in your arms. And if they're all rock stars, shouldn't we be using that as well too? Again, I'm scared of my shadow. And when I look at HR projects, I look at it this way too. If not dealt with properly and in a timely manner, know that we're going to see an EPL claim, employer liability claim. We are going to see a that's not fair claim. I'm going to see my whole body, including the tips of my toes, cumulative trauma since 2018. I'm going to see retaliation. I'm going to see, I heard this dirty joke at a bar back in the day. And so I feel as if I'm being harassed as well too. So there are, as you look at your HR projects, which I love those HR projects because I want to surgically remove them. But how do you do it in such a way that it doesn't really impact you financially for the next 5 to 10 years and take 2 to 3 years of your time dealing with depositions, going to court, having to fight those things as well too. Please, if you do have people that are not setting expectations, they're not doing their job. The biggest question I get a lot of times from managers is this, is I have somebody who has a bad attitude. And I said, I hope you're not keeping them, but they're very, very good at this particular job set. And I go, fine. I said, attitude kills all talent. And please don't keep them there and disrupt the rest of your team and disrupt your culture. Now, most times, again, we have a giving heart. We've maybe had 5 general managers and this person gets to stay, right? And then they've grown hair, arms, and extra teeth. And a new GM comes in, and what happens? The first 5 days are going, who is this person? And why are they here? And I want to remove them as soon as possible. But we need to look at the history of why they're there. Why has it come to this point? And what can we do now as well too? But what I would say is, Matthew, you mentioned that the members are going to be expecting full-blown coming back. What level of service are they going to be expecting?
The best.
The best.
Better.
Better than the best, right? Especially if they've been paying dues, right? So, yeah. So what are you going to have in front of them? Who are you going to be bringing back? And what sort of training program will be needed as well too? Anyone else in the audience would like to, Carrie? I'm going to call you out.
Brian had a comment.
Brian, please.
One of the things is I've told my leadership team is, we are not going to be judged by the mistakes that we're making along the way, but we will be judged on how we come out of this thing and what we provide to the membership when we're done. So I fully agree with everything you're saying. I said, because the mistakes along the way are going to be proof that you're trying as a team to do the best we can in an environment that has never occurred before. So there are no rules. We're all professionals and trying to make this thing work the best we can. But the most important thing is to continue to work as a leadership team, continue to communicate and keep that goal. One of these days, we're going to come out of this. We're working on that now. We want to embrace our new vision statement and our new mission statement that we never had before. We've managed to promote a couple managers during this pandemic. We've lost a couple, as you've said, that didn't want to play accordingly. But I said the people that matter most to us will understand and have empathy for us about some of the mistakes we made, but they will also appreciate and embrace us for the successes that we have when this is all done. So that's kind of what we work on a daily basis. And it's brought them all closer together. It's been truly amazing. The whole pandemic actually has been, I was a brand new manager first time up here. And the pandemic has actually helped me bring the team together because they didn't know what to do. So it was a perfect opportunity for the right person to come in with some leadership skill to basically embrace the leadership team and to guide them through this and made them feel safe. So, it's been terrible in some things, but this pandemic has also been a blessing in others.
Brian, did you find that the employees were needing guidance and leadership?
Oh my God. So before I got here, there were 5 general managers in 10 years.
Oh, boy. Wow.
So not only did the employees need leadership, and so did the leadership team, right? We've created an environment where the leadership team now feels like one. We've removed all the plexiglass silos that everybody worked in. We've opened lines of communication. There's relationships built between the department heads that never existed before. And that's filtering down now into the staff. So the staff is literally less panicked about the future, and they're able to concentrate and come to work and be much happier when they can come to work, right? We're up here in smoke, Northern California. So not only do we have a pandemic, but we shut down when we can open because of smoke and fire. So we deal with all kinds of issues. But it's really changed the environment. Good leadership and good vision, good mission. That's the key to this whole thing. And constantly meet with your people, constantly.
Brian, and one of the things I think we've said here is I get your point about the pandemic has brought us closer as a team. It's also made our staff understand that the club really does care. We kept our employees at 80% for 6 months, even when most of them were at home. Also, a lot of the wins we've had with some of the programs we've instituted. But as I've said, people have very, very short memories. So one of our projects during this is to capture as many of the meaningful moments that occurred during the pandemic and get them out there in front of people so that not only do your staff, remember how you reacted, how the club reacted and took care of them, but also the members. And so get some pictures of some fun Zoom events you did or whatever, because it's not often, especially I found this and talking to a lot of club managers, that members have really understood how important a club is to their lives. And again, I think it's a great, I always, look for ways that I can get an upper hand. And so we're going to be using this, pandemic for the next 20 years. And because, we didn't have a world war, we didn't have those sorts of cataclysmic events.
Right.
But this really was eye-opening to many of our members.
Right.
I think also too, you were able to see which team members really stepped up as well too. And some of the diehard folks. This is your opportunity to really, I see a lot of you on social media saying, a big kudos to this particular person. They want the praise, they want the recognition, and especially during this time as well too. And what I've also heard throughout the club community as well is we're so far apart, but I feel so connected as well. To get all of you together in one room would be virtually impossible, trains, freeways,
Especially
flights, right? And so to be able to be with you all here. And so we are going to have a new way of communication, but in regards to your staff, I think a lot of people have said, we have some amazing rock stars here that really came to the rescue, said, you know what, you will have the plow horses and the race horses, as I call them. And you have the people that go, well, that's not my job description. That's not my job description. I just put a flag on that file folder. But then you also have the folks going, what else can I do? How can I help? And those are going to be your future leaders as well too. And you're recognizing them. We may not be able to give out a bunch of big bonuses or whatever, but being able to kind of highlight them during this time is, I think, really valuable as well. But I have seen a lot of clubs really kind of spotlight some of their amazing efforts and some amazing team members, but also too, it's shined a very bright light on those that aren't part of the culture, that aren't committed and go, I'm sitting back as well too. So look at that. Look at who's going to be contributing to the culture, the vision. Who do you have on your team? And if the level of expectation as far as service is going to be up here when you guys reopen, you have to select carefully, but knowing what the risk is in cherry picking. And again, I would ask all of you, have your dashboard, years of service, what's their education, what's their knowledge, what's their skill set, right? So that way you're using that dashboard versus your gut feeling, because sometimes our gut feeling will discriminate. Unfortunately, we like newer people. We like this shiny object. But again, look at the dashboard to see who we're bringing back and why as well too. And if it's looking like it's tilting one way versus the other, you do need to do that risk analysis to say, this might be somewhat risky. Are we willing to take that chance? And then calling Toni and saying we have an EPLI claim. But again, understanding really who we're bringing back as a team and the best as well too. Don't settle. Miss Crystal.
I think we should go to break now. What do you think?
Well, I have my huge clock in front of me. I want to be mindful of everybody. Now, I don't know if these are hourly people here, so my meal rest periods, are kind of going off like an alarm here.
Okay, so let's go off for 15 minutes and it is 10:28. So we'll come back on at 10:43. So 10:43, we will begin again. So enjoy a little break, take care of yourself, get yourself a cup of coffee. Don't get into too many big conversations that can't bring you back on time. And we'll see you in 15 minutes. Hi, Toni. Well, we're back at it here. Hopefully everybody has rejoined us or is continuing, maybe didn't go off and is still with us. Great work so far, Toni. It's awesome.
Fantastic. I'm just happy to hear that, for those that are back, has everybody at least learned one new thing or reminded to do one new thing? Again, could I see thumbs up? Yes. Has it been educational? Some good reminders? Oh, fantastic, fantastic. I think Matthew is tackling an HR project. No, I don't think so. Hopefully not. He'll be back soon. We had 8 sessions for breakout. We're going to do 4. We talked about our people, the first P, which is incredibly, incredibly important. Now we're going to go on to the next is, so some reminders here. Chaz, can you make sure I'm able to? All right. So just some reminders is sometimes you need to readdress the fact that here is your job and here's what we hired you to do. Also too, if you have new management, a new vision, a new direction, reestablish what they're supposed to do as well. I think accountability is huge. However, how can you make people accountable if they're not really clear in regards to what they're supposed to be doing? One of the things that I ask my employees is, what are your top 3 things you're supposed to be doing day in and day out? And if they go off on a tangent on some other things, I know I need to reel them in, make sure I give them a copy of their duties and go, I'm going to come back to you in a couple of days and let's revisit this as well too. So I think you have your second fold there. Make sure that you get your credit in. Feel free, Chaz, you can participate there as well. And coaching is key. I tell people that we're going to either coach to make our people better, or we're going to coach to make sure they go to a different position as well too. There was almost a on-site injury. You almost gave me a heart attack.
Bless you, sorry.
Welcome back, Mr. Allnatt. Okay, so next we're going to go on to game day stress. We're talking right now to a lot of clubs in regards to wellness, health, and safety, and what is impacting your employees right now. I know that a lot of HR people in the club industry are trying to give resources out and making those available to their employees. If you're not healthy, are you able to do your job? If you're not handling your mental health, are you able to take on the stresses of the day as well too. So again, what are your benefits? What do you have available? And make them easy for people to retrieve those resources as well too. Some of the things that I'm seeing right now as well are the Ds. And it may be a death, a divorce, debt, or just drama in general, impacting your employees as well too. One of the things that the Jonathan Club has done here is really reinvested in the wellness for their employees. If you don't have healthy employees, are they able to lift, push, and pull? Are they able to give that high level of member experience at your club as well too? So Matthew, in regards to when we talk about wellness and giving back to the employees, what's worked? What have you seen that's been put in place and that's been helpful to keep your employees safe, healthy, and well?
Well, I think, having an amazing HR broker is one of the most important things. No, I think, without your health, you have nothing. And I think one of the most basic illustrations of that is that we've been with our same healthcare provider for the past 6 years.
Yes.
That's really important. It's not necessarily your employee there, but it may be the mother, it may be who's at home having to take the children to the doctors. It may be you have some slightly older children who still are on your health plan. And that creates undue stress and constantly changing for the sake of a couple of pennies here and there, and in some cases it's more than pennies. But we are very clear on what it costs the club, what the benefits are. I think again, we do health. I guess you call them clinics, which we work with you on, Toni. We do that at least twice a year, really for 3 reasons. One, it shows the staff we care. We're giving them, a chance to come out, talk about they get their blood pressure checked. They get all of these things done. So even if they're not, doing their annual checkup, we're showing them,
Right.
We say your health is important. So this is how important. We also do a lot of giveaways that come with that. But it's also for us, even with HIPAA laws and things like that, an employee may go and find out they are having issues with a joint or with their eyesight or with their teeth. Those things are all going to come to impact you. And so that we use them as well as just to see other things out there that we're beginning to kind of feel there is a cause. I also think that, looking at my staff 20 years ago and looking at my staff today, and these are 65-year-olds right the way down to 20-year-olds, everybody is much, much more aware of their health. I mean, they're drinking more water. There are all those sorts of things, and then, I think talking about health is a constant. I mean, and especially I think during this COVID, for us, it's been mental health.
Right.
I mentioned calling our employees who are furloughed, but I think just checking in as a whole. I think also people at the top, myself included, reminding our employees that I'm stressed, I'm feeling it too. So it's not something you need to be afraid of admitting that, you're under, the stress and constantly watching the news and opening and closing. And again, that's where I use the word empathy. And that's really a key indicator. And frankly, at some point, you're going to get into a lawsuit and someone's going to say, well, what is the culture of the club like? And this is another one of, for us, 10 to 12 things where we think we go above and beyond.
Absolutely. One of the things right now, because of the pandemic, is you guys put in the virtual wellness. You push it almost from a paternal standpoint of you work here, make sure you're taking care of yourself, look under the hood. And I will say that with some of the blood pressure, your BMI, you've had some wake up calls from employees as well too. So let's not wait until they have that injury or something catastrophic as well too. And so I do think that wellness is here to stay, and also to making sure, whether it be English on one side, Spanish on the other, and giving your employees the tools. Sometimes they won't reach out to you. So why don't you give it to them on a platter so they have that as well too. So we're not going to do breakout sessions. We have a lot of talkers here today. So we're going to keep going here. But what are you doing to keep your employees happy and healthy? Okay. And what could you do to impact the health of your team? It doesn't have to be in person. Can it be done virtually? And like Matthew mentioned too, some of just those outreach calls as well too, and reminding people, oh, make sure you download that Headspace, or make sure you're taking care of yourself. Also too, those that are in management level, they need to make sure they're taking care of themselves so they can take care of their teams as well too. So again, just some reminders, some action items to take a look at as well too. One of my all-time favorites is defending an oncoming blitz. We are in the great state of California. We have wonderful weather. We pay the sunshine tax. Is California becoming even more difficult to do business here? Absolutely. Is it going to continue being that we're in a pandemic? Absolutely. We're now seeing an onslaught of EPLI claims or fraudulent workers' comp, even more so now because of furloughs and layoffs and everything as well too. So, one of the things that we wanted to touch on here is what could be some things that could take your club out, whether it be a COVID outbreak and they have to close you down. Could it be a government, audit? Could it be there for a lawsuit or a class action lawsuit? Or could it be even union activity as well too? Matthew has several unions here. Many of you that are on this call don't have unions. What I will say is this: of my 5 clients that were going through speedy elections, and 2 actually were unionized, 3 were not. The one common thing was, when did we see it coming? And 2, did we have happy employees? And if we didn't have happy employees, why then did they think they needed to bring in the union to take care of them? The ones that were able to, again, keep the union out of their facilities, they actually had happy, content employees that said, we don't need you, we're fine with what we have currently right now as well too. So what could be some of the big, risk that could take out not only your club, but also your tenure as well too, in regards to your reputation, your character, and everything that you've built up all of these years. More than anything right now, we are in California. We just had our major labor law update. We had Richard J. Simmons, not the exercise guru, the wage and hour guru. And I asked him, if you could give a tip to employers in California, what would you tell them? And he said, 1, leave California. I said, well, we can't do that. Some of us have facilities, we have golf courses, we have yacht clubs, so we can't outsource to Florida or Texas. What else would you say? Make sure you have happy employees and prepare for your biggest risks. So one of the items that we kind of wanted to talk about here is, what are your top risks for your club? Can we be compliant in everything? It's absolutely impossible to be compliant in absolutely everything. I think more than anything is, you need to identify, based on where we are, the type of employees we have, the industry that we're in, and looking at past history, what really do we need to focus on? What are the 2 or 3 things that kind of keep us up at night, and put the resources towards mitigating that risk as well too? So Matthew, are there some things you'd like to share with the group, or we can go into breakouts, but what are some things that you're looking at in regards to, your top areas of risk that you're keeping an eye on?
I think the most obvious, the scariest thing you have to be incredibly careful of right now is discrimination. Obviously, with what went on during the summer, there is a lot of risk because of past behavior of clubs, especially our own. We did discriminate. We didn't have women members. people point to that very quickly, so they have a historical perspective. So we've been working on this for 10 years to get out and be as part of the community, so that we at least have it's kind of like I was just mentioning with the health days here, but we can point to things. So for instance, one of the groups we work a lot with is called LA Works. They help large corporations go out and do projects within the community. Now, it just so happens that group was formed right after the Rodney King riots. And so we've supported them for 10 years. So it's not just now, but again, discrimination is really, it's the big buzzword. It's for all different reasons, but that's the one thing that makes me nervous, and also it worries me with our members saying something, or one of my members having an issue. We have a member right now who is married to a fairly popular TV reality star, blah, blah, blah. Of course, it's all over the news, and our name is in there all over the place as being part of this club. And so when people come calling and ask us or question us, what are we doing? So discrimination is something that I keep on. And then the other thing I would advise people to do is, look to and again, I can give people some information offline, but make sure you have a crisis management plan. One of the worst things is when one of these things come up and you say, what do you do? And it doesn't have to be a 20-page booklet. Ours is a 1-page, who responds, who can say anything, and it's frankly not the board presidents. The last person in the world you want to be saying something in some cases,
right?
Depending on what they do. My board president, runs a Fortune 500 gun sales company. So do I want him out there talking about certain subject matters? So again, I think having crisis management on those things, but that's the one thing that right now is just really, really touchy.
Fantastic. In talking and working with clubs, what I'm seeing and hearing, and everybody's risk is a little bit different. In talking with just piggybacking on what you mentioned too, diversity, inclusion. And so is your club talking about that? Are you doing something about that? I think a lot of times with organizations, depending on how big you are, if you're not doing anything, that's going to be a negative. Are you doing something? At least are you putting something on the table? You have more of an outreach and that commitment, but what little things could you be doing and encouraging diversity inclusion within the workplace as well? Something that came to mind is we're all putting in our EEO1 information if you have over 100 employees. So on the surface of it, you do need to look at, again, that dashboard. Are we a little heavy in certain areas that we might want to encourage some diversity? And again, we're giving this to the government. So what does it look like? And will they be auditing us for our employment practices as well too? So we have kind of Big Brother taking a look at how we're doing our hiring, who's in that management position, what races, creeds, and colors are being represented here as well too. Also, do you mention discrimination? Again, as you're bringing people back, how does that look as well too? If you're a new general manager, I always preface it this as, I want you to bring in the brightest, the best. But if they look exactly like you and you're bringing your entire team from your previous club, on the surface of it, what does it look like? You may not be doing it on purpose, but from the outside looking in, how does that look? Also, too, I know that many of you call me when we have a stressful situation. Crisis management is one. So you have somebody goes down with a massive heart attack, goes into a diabetic coma. You have an actor shoot situation. Maybe you have a massive earthquake. Do your people know what to do? What is the communication? Where's the exits? What is going to happen next? And a lot of us have put together some apps for those crisis situations. So that way you have that backup plan for business continuity as well too.
An outbreak of COVID. I mean, that's the other thing that keeps.
The outbreak of COVID, I think, reminds us of business disruption and crisis management.
But what do you say to your members? So you've got to have a plan in place. I know one club closed down. They said, unfortunately, we've had an outbreak amongst our staff and we're going to be closed for 2 weeks. That's not enough. Then the members are going to be thinking, well, how did it happen? am I safe when I go back there? So
The
again, the messaging is really, really key right now. And as people are very raw right now, you have to be very careful in how you present it.
You mentioned messaging as well too. So not only to the board and members, to your employees, but also PR in general as well, correct?
Yep.
Fantastic. So going into the breakout sessions, again, what is the one risk that would impact your club and your career the most? And second is, what are you doing to prevent or mitigate that risk? Again, we have so many areas of risk in California. It continually changes, right? But again, what are the big things that keep you up at night? And what are you doing with your team, with leadership? What plans do you have in place to maybe either engineer it out or lower the risk of it happening to you as well too? So go into your breakout sessions, collaborate for 10 minutes, and I'd love to hear your feedback when you come back as well too. Would anybody like to share some of the pearls of wisdom from their breakout room in regards to what's the biggest risk that you're facing right now, and maybe what are you doing to mitigate that as well? Any hands up? Jessica?
Russell, Tony, and Matthew, may I go?
Yeah.
Please, Russell, welcome.
I'm sorry, I'm jumping in without a hands up. I don't actually know how to put a hand up here. So.
Physically.
Okay, sorry. That was really an enjoyable session. 3 bullet points came out of it for us. So we're fearful of our blind spots. We're fearful of, some of us have an HR director, some do not. Compliance is continuing to change. In other words, there's rules of golf written that we're following, but what's the new rule coming up that we don't know about, and how is that going to affect us if we're not in compliance? What are we doing about that? We continue to look at the counties, look at the states, and watch for information to come, and also attending these webinars, listening to individuals like you, Toni, who in the California State Club Association, those that have leading edge information for us is critical. A second one, which I thought was a really good one, is repurposing our job description. If I'm a team member who was in the non-member event business, and the non-member event business is going away because the club is becoming more member-centric, where is my job? And in some cases, we're repurposing into a member relations role because that's where I'm now needed, and I have the skill set for that. So I thought that was cool. And lastly, a risk that keeps a leader up is the level of the education of his mid-level leaders, avoiding discrimination issues. What you permit, you promote. Them permitting too much, and the way to solve that is continuing ongoing HR education. So I had a great group, and thank you for letting us report.
Fantastic, Russell. Thank you. Thank you. I always ask managers, I said, how many of you here do HR? And they kind of look at that one person, they point and they go, them. And I go, nope, it's everybody here. We have no idea in HR who's drunk, who's harassing, who's not taking their meal rest period, who's making fun of people, having racial jokes. We have absolutely no idea. Now, by the time it comes to us, it's a full-blown issue. And I said, but you are at the forefront. You are assisting us in compliance, consistency, and enforcing the rules at all times, right? So the managers, a lot of times too, I go, don't be a dictator. Don't be everybody's best friend. You got to have to be kind of in the middle here. They're going to be identifying your risk more than anything. If they don't run to the friction, then it will become a fire down the road as well too. So kind of keep that in mind. They are your eyes and ears. I always tell people, come to our events. I scare because I care, because that needle keeps moving. Also too, collaborate with your peers here. What happens at one club will happen to the club next door. Why? You probably share the same employees, or they're married to somebody that is in your facility as well too. And I tend to see various trends as well. So if we're seeing a trend of different types of lawsuits or losses as well too, be mindful of that as well. there's something I'd love to give to all of you. It's basically kind of a 2021 compliance check. And it's really just identifying, walking through some questions and going, I never even knew this was a risk. I said, well, I would rather you know what's on the table. You pick your top 3. Can we be compliant in everything? Absolutely not. You got to run a club. You have people. However, what are those top 3? And try to work at mitigating that as well too. Is anybody else, or Matthew, would you like to add to that as well?
No, I'm gonna keep going.
Okay, we have a lot of slides, he said. We're gonna keep going. Again, was this helpful for everyone? If you got a pearl of wisdom or some insight, can I see a thumbs up from those of you? Fantastic, awesome. And close to my heart, repurposing job descriptions. Russell, you're singing my song here. Okay, here we go. So we mentioned in regards to, some people mentioned the wildfires, right? Unfortunately, it is what it is, what it is. So are you doing everything to mitigate some of those risks as well too? I know some people have actually said, I'm going to be hiring Kim and Kanye's separate fire department because of where we're located as well too. And I said, you may have to as well. Look at your communication and conduct in all of your departments, okay? I went to one kitchen recently and the chef said, don't come in here. And I said, why not? He said, I can't have you come into my kitchen. I said, now I'm curious. I said, why can't I walk through your kitchen? Because I was taking pictures for something else. He said, well, the language, the conduct, and the horseplay, you'd be mortified. And I said, now I need to go in. And I said, and chef, if you're allowing this behavior to happen under your watch, not only are we going to have a lawsuit, but you're going to be part of it as well too. So I keep checking in on them every single month and say, how, can I walk through? And it's maybe in a week. Okay, again, what's happening within your departments, and make sure they're complying with your policies as well too. The very last one there is an employee compliance survey. If you're going to be joining David and Jenny, I think we're going to be doing a local chapter event as well. One of the things that I love is I want to ask your employees, are they happy? Do they think it's fair? Have we paid you correctly? Do you have any occupational injuries? Have you ever been harassed? Do you feel as if you can go to HR? I want that every year. Why? It's just a pulse check to see how you are doing. And God forbid you go to the dark side and you go, my whole body hurts. I've never taken a meal rest period, right? And also too, there's discrimination throughout the club. I would love to say, well, I got this from you in 2017, 18, 19, and 20. Never once did you bring this up. Why are you bringing it up now after we've termed you for cause as well too? So just a kind of a trick there as well in regards to just checking the pulse. Avoiding penalty flags. So I think in looking at this adage, we kind of know this. We know happy employees, happy members, successful club as well too. And what does that look like? We talked a little bit about the toxic employees, but are people actually engaged? Are they happy? Are they in the right position as well too? What I tend to see, and again, one of the things that keeps me up at night is I'm seeing a lot of activity over in the Port of LA, more than I usually see. Also too, my non-club clients that usually have union campaigns every 5 years, we're probably going to see them every 3 to 2 years. And so the biggest thing I'm telling my clients and companies in general is, one, do you have the right employees? Do you have the best leaders? You coach performance. You either make them leaders or you coach them out with documentation, but also too, making sure you really have engagement in place as well too. If you have unhappy employees, what do I see? Do they haunt us for a long time, Matthew?
Yes, they do.
Yes, they do. When we see workers' comp fraud, when we see a particular lawsuit, I ask my clients, I go, are we surprised? Well, no, they've always had a horrible attitude and we just kept them here for an extremely long time. I go, but did we encourage that? Did we let it go on? And did it kill the culture within our department as well too? I love this slide. I'm a kind of a secret shopper when I go out to places. One of the things that you see, a common denominator in and out, is happy employees. And Lindsay, who's there, is the youngest billionaire who inherited In and Out. One of their secret sauces is really, we're really picky and strategic, and we're not going to compromise. So when you start to open up and the members want to utilize the club, what are your expectations? Who are you going to be bringing back and why as well too? So again, we're not going to talk a little bit about this one, but just in some talking points amongst your team is, have you surveyed your employees on their engagement and what were the results? Are they bought in? Are they part of the culture? Are they happy? What I love to do when there's a new general manager, I'm like a secret shopper. And I always like to say, well, how's the new GM? How's the new GM? And the responses can be, well, I'm just going to wait out this one. I go, oh, okay. I have no idea what's going on, same old, same old. Or I'll also hear, and some of you are represented here today, I'm happy to say that some go, they're fantastic, absolutely fantastic. And I ask multiple levels of employees, and when I see that common denominator, I go, that is a happy club. That's going to be a successful club as well too. So do you have your net promoter score? Do you have a toxic employee? And what are you going to be doing about that as well too? So Matthew, engagement. How important is engagement of your team members within the culture and making sure they're happy here?
Oh, I think happiness is really important. And, keeping engaged with the employees, making sure there's fun. Fun is really important to us. One of the things we've started to do is be able to tell jokes to people, even if it's a group of chefs who are sitting at a table. Can you go over and tell them a clean joke to get people to laugh? It's hard to do, but It's amazing how important it is. Taking away that club culture of, the more uncomfortable people feel, the more special your club is. We certainly promote a very welcoming, fun place to be. We don't take ourselves too seriously. We can be as serious as you want to be, but again, we learned that during this pandemic is, people don't want to come to a serious club. They want to come to a fun club, a place they feel like they're escaping.
Why do you think, and usually I see the aftermath, right? I see it after the lawsuit or the workers' comp fraud case, and by then they're lawyered up and very, very difficult situations. And we're seeing hundreds of thousands of dollars being spent in time and money and anguish and stress. Why do you think toxic employees are still employed at various clubs?
I think the fear of a lawsuit. I think the members and what the relationship is there, and sometimes it's just you don't know. I mean, and you've got to understand. Don't beat yourself up too much. There are people that are just unhappy, and they don't work well. And as soon as they leave, no matter what you've done to make them happy, and you can beat yourself up over it, they're going to sue you. And I've had that happen to me, and it did, get me upset. It's like, God, after all I do, now I get this. And, it's human nature. I mean, if you don't expect disappointments, we shouldn't be in this business. I mean, human beings are human beings. And that's part of mentoring my staff, my managers, especially the young ones who are very keen and, and believe in the goodness and believe in all of these things. And then they suddenly get this employee that turns on them, and it can really, that's the hard person to bring back up and say, that's just life. And sometimes it can be a member writing an email to you laden with disappointments and things like that. And you've got to remember that piece of it and bringing those people up and letting them understand it's going to happen. We can do all these things, but it's still, they're definitely going to happen. You're going to get a toxic employee.
Right. There's one club manager that's on here, and they said, I have an employee who's been stealing. I think that they're bordering on harassment and giving the best schedules to certain employees. I said, well, that's pretty bad. I said, how long has he been there? 25 years. I said, oh, wow. Okay. And he thinks he's the sacred cow. He knows politically how to talk to all the right people. And I said, now, what's going to happen now that you know all these things? What's going to happen to your leadership? What's going to happen to the trust that you've been given? And if you allow this person to stay, then you're condoning that behavior. We looked at all the different avenues of what to do. We looked at loss control video. We took statements and everything. It basically found that obviously we needed to terminate this individual. I think also too, we level set the expectation of, well, crazy does crazy. A bad employee is going to do bad things, and just let's anticipate this. Let's not be shocked as well too. And when we saw, okay, we terminated this individual, we had all the documentation in the world, and we saw the first, post-term cumulative trauma. And I said, but that's what's to be expected. Now, I want to congratulate you for finally doing something about it. Is it better for the culture? Absolutely. Better for the rest of the staff? Absolutely. And you're setting a new standard. You're elevating that performance. Is it painful? Yes. I think more than anything, after you write that big check and you see the premiums go up, you then need to say, well, let's just make sure we don't have it happen again as well too. So as you're bringing back people as well too, level setting in regards to your expectations, so that way you don't have those toxic employees coming back as well too. Chapter 11, taking care of your team and surrounding yourself with people smarter than you are who will give you honest feedback. Many of you have HR, many of you do not. A lot of your controllers kind of have dual role positions. And I do tell people it's kind of right side of the ring, left side of the ring, because they're really two opposite, subsets in your organization. But what I would say is this is if you're finding yourselves at that crossroads, really step out of the situation. Talk to your HR person, talk to your labor attorney, talk to your broker risk manager, and figure out what the plan is. I personally like HR projects. We have a story here, a club that's on here. I think a couple of people are from their club. Toni, we have a situation. I said, again, should I sit down? Should I close the door? Yes and yes. I said, fantastic. And had the head chef in there as well too. I said, I'm going to ask a bunch of questions here. And, obviously very emotional, close to the situation, and fit to be tied and ready to get rid of this person. So calm down. Let's look at the facts here. And that's really all you want to take a look at. As you're talking with your human resource attorney, broker risk manager, they need to do the intake and find out the situation here. Looked at all the facts, looked at all the figures, looked at how long this person was there, looked at their tenure. And I said, tell me the offense. What happened? Can I get rid of them? Can I get rid of them? And I just said, outsider looking in doesn't sound like enough, right? To terminate me. Worst day of my life, right? To rip the paycheck from under my feet. And for me then to go on unemployment, have to look for another job. I said, I don't think the crime fits the punishment. And I said, but I'm an outsider looking in. I'm not closely attached to this person. I don't know their background. I don't know their kids, right? You're so close to the situation. You're so highly emotional about it. I think it would be wrong to take that step right now. Not to say that they're a good employee, but just looking at the facts. They went back, did some coaching. And again, the last thing I always ask is, when was the last documentation? Well, they know. No, they probably did a drive-by to get better. I said, show me, scan me, lift up to the video all the formal documentation. Well, we have none. And again, go back to the drawing board. Be fair to me, be respectful to me, and give me honest feedback of you failed to do these things and how it affects the other club members here or the staff within the department. Start with that first. Have an honest, tough conversation, like a tough coach. Luckily, they had that conversation. They were able to turn it around. But if you're so close to the situation, sometimes you need to step back and ask others their impartial opinion that aren't so closely involved with the situation as well too. Matthew, have you ever been in that situation? You're not an emotional, hot-tempered person, are you?
Yeah, I think the people up here, I mean, I have obviously you as my broker. I trust you'll be honest with me. I have two incredible attorneys. I've also had for 20 years labor attorneys. And I now have a new HR director who comes from a fairly blunt, obvious type environment in big resorts. And so they're very used to asking the honest questions, and I welcome those because as I said, I try to surround myself with people who know more than I do. The important thing is, as I said, and my IT director, as he moved up in the organization, I remember having a conversation with him 11 years ago, and he came into my office with a problem, and it's like, well, that's great. It's kind of like your broker says, oh, you've got this problem. And I always say, well, what's the solution? I don't need any more problems. I got plenty, but you at least thinking about a solution. So it's really, really important. And I think especially when you have another manager who is emotionally tied to this person they want to terminate, is let's come up with a game plan.
Right.
And that may mean rehabilitation for this issue, or it could be eventually getting to a point. And they just have to understand in some cases, I've had it, it can be a 5-year wait. I've got 3 union heads within my organization who have been here 20 years. They don't do anything wrong. They work well, but they create an atmosphere of discontent. And it took me 5 years to get rid of them. But I had to be really, really methodical and be very, very, very careful. But they're gone. And the change is remarkable. But again, let's have the solution and let's stick to it.
Absolutely. I think one thing reminds me is, I get to deliver either really good news, mediocre news, or really bad news to my clients. And I always remember you saying, I said, well, here's where we're at. And unfortunately, because of the risk and the losses and the 5 years, it is what it is. And here's what the market is telling us. And you said, that's fine, Toni. But what are the solutions? Now, many times we come with solutions, but as a general manager, you have to be open to hearing those solutions. A lot of times it may be your leadership. It may be your processes, how you hire people, and having that honest dialogue of here's where we are, where would you like to go? And you said, you have to tell me where my areas of weakness are as well too. But as a GM, is it hard to be open to criticism? Is it hard to be open and saying, here are some areas of your game that need work as well too?
I know. I think there are opportunities. And again, learning the hard way. I mean, we talk about risk management. I told you the story today about an independent contractor who was meant to be filing certain things with the city. And here in LA, all of those things are done electronically. Inspections don't occur anymore by actual firemen. Now it's done by independent contractors. They run certain tests. They say, oh, we've got to fix this, this, and this. You get 30 days to do it. This one gentleman just didn't know what to do. We got a very overzealous district attorney who came after the club. And the end result was I ended up having to stand in front of a judge and agree to a misdemeanor and listen to them chastise me and threaten me with prison because we had for 2 years had not been corrected an issue that actually had been corrected 2 years before, but the follow-up had not occurred. My thing after obviously calming down was everything is an opportunity. So now we have created an annual risk review that not only I go through in every area of the club, but I also present it to the board of directors because my career, the club's reputation is based on that. So how can I take this one thing, correct it, but then go a step further and try to prevent it, but then also have it as part of what my job is. And going through every area of my club from not just fire, but looking at my handbook. Was it renewed this year? Did I conduct a IT audit? all of these things. So it ends up being 12 different things. And now it's actually made my job a lot easier, rather than kind of relying on my IT director to kind of come to me and say, oh, hey, I performed that audit, which he may have done, but may have forgotten to tell me. Now we have, okay, at this time of year, we go in front of a risk assessment committee, which is made up of some members, and then we go to the board and say, all these things are done. And we admit where we have, also we admit where there are opportunities. There's risk in our labor, and we talk about lawsuits we've had and what we've done to try and correct them.
Fantastic. Well, like you mentioned, there's always opportunities to learn and to get better. And from that situation of facing possible jail time, you said, okay, maybe I need a third party to identify my risk here and tell me the areas that I need to spend some time on as well too. So again, who is your circle of trust that's going to be giving you really information that you need to know? You may not be wanting to see it or hear it, that really are trying to save you and also the club time and money as well. I also have a goodie for you as well. I have a pre-termination checklist. It's like 20 different questions. It's really this. I know a lot of people despise going to HR because they think HR is going to say no to everything. And I go, well, that's not necessarily the case, but we have to protect the club and we have to protect you as well too. So it's nice to kind of go through some of those questions and say, do we have enough? Have we abided by our policy? Have we given them opportunities to get better, or would this be a surprise and scare and hurt us all as well too? Chapter 12 is on the goal line. I love this chapter. What I find to be very interesting is in working with clubs, I will sometimes get this, do you know when they're going to retire? And I said, how would I know? That's your employee. Have you discussed it? Do you have a plan? Who's retiring? Who's a rookie? Who's on the disability list? Those are all of your team members. But asking, hopefully you have your annual review and you're talking about these things openly. You're not using the terms like, when are you retiring? But what are you going to be doing the next 5 years? I need to strategize with the team. I need to make sure that I have all hands on deck. I need to promote from within. Can you tell me what your plans are? And just to have that education as well. One of the things when we take a look at some of the demographics is, of our staff, how many people here need education? One of the things we did here at the Jonathan Club, Matthew mentioned, we have 20% of our staff that is either Medicare eligible or close to. And we did not have it as this age group needs to come. It was come one, come all. I mean, actually, you had a lot of people in finance in their 20s who would like to plan and said, I need to help my family members. I want to learn more about it. What was interesting when we did a little Medicare information, a little Social Security, you have your 401k provider coming in, they're kind of putting the pieces together and having a plan. What I tend to see with a lot of clubs is we have very loyal employees. They're not able to lift, push, pull, or do their job. And then management says, well, then I have this high level of member expectation, but what do I do here? And so I think a lot of it is going back to kind of that maternal responsibility of giving them resources as well too. And it was surprising to see how many people, when we did the Medicare information session, Social Security Medicare situation, where they said, I have more information. I can now plan.
Yeah, and I think that's, there's a great speaker who will speak at conference next year nationally, who talks about financial education and being one of the things that has hindered our country. That, we don't talk to people about getting a mortgage. We don't talk to people about leasing versus buying a car, about getting out of credit card debt, about retirement. And if we do it, it's in such a high level given by financial advisors. And so one of the things we try to do here, because again, those are all stress-related issues that hinder our employees' progress, is how do we help them through that? And so they can do it on their own. We make sure they check their credit score. I mean, next to their physical health, their financial health for me is the most important thing for them. And it has led into the opportunity where some of my older employees now are aware of the fact that, there is they can retire, and it's going to be okay. And the other piece of that is then you say, well, what do they do when they retire? Where are they going to go? And you give them then, once they start having that conversation, you put them into these amazing support networks, especially in California, that are available to people to still keep engaged with people, to have something to do, all of those things. But financial education, I mean, a lot of my young managers, I know they're drowning in credit card debt and they don't know how to get out of it. They don't know how to deal with it. So it's done. We don't tell them to do it. They can go online and hopefully do it themselves, but we direct them there to give them something to help them. And again, in the end, it all helps for a better climate within the club.
It's general health. It's mental health, it's physical health, and financial health as well too. We talk a little bit about presenteeism. Somebody's actually clocked in, but they're not here because they have creditors calling them constantly. You know, a lot of companies, corporations have succession planning. I would say too, that if you have certain demographics that you need to start planning for succession planning, what does that look like as well too? If you have this new level of standards as well, somebody's been a loyal employee for 30 years, what else can they do? Also too, that connectivity with the club as well. The last time I was able to go to one of the holiday events to see people saying, hey, I'm still able to come. I'm still able to participate. And they're actually some of the best mentors for your newer employees that haven't been around clubs or don't know the history of the clubs or the core values or what do these pictures mean on the walls as well too. So that connectivity is really, really great as well too. So again, are you talking to people about their next step? Are you giving them the resources to be successful and able to retire on their own terms? Matthew mentioned as well too, the connection to the club, but also to that financial education. There's something called Coffee that they've enrolled here. It's financial education. And again, just some of the basics of, do you own or rent? What's credit card debt? Credit union versus bank, leasing and owning, all these basic things they probably should be telling us in school. But really, again, giving resources to the employees to make sure they're happy and healthy while part of our team as well too. So we have some top 10s. I know we want to get into some takeaways for all of you as well too. Again, where is the vision? Is it easy to understand? Does everybody know where we're going as well too? Your coaches, do they know their coaches? And if they're not a good coach, give them the tools to be a good coach. As we open up the doors, we're bringing back people, please don't settle. Use the job description. No if, ands, or buts, okay? Keep an eye on your blind side. If you can afford a risk management audit like Matthew, do that as well too. Document, and document some more is, I think, my t-shirt that's going to be made for me as well too. And I document for two things. One, to make you better. And I document and I say, congratulations, you did an amazing job of a turnaround. And I'm going to put that in your file as well. But also too, this is an opportunity for you to get better. If not, I have my bases covered. Should you go the dark side and start claiming various things, I do have the paperwork here. Have your 24/7 protection team run things by impartial people that are experts in the industry. Run it by them before you pull the trigger. Check the pulse of engagement and happiness. You know, we are in the fun business, wouldn't you say, Matthew?
Absolutely.
We don't have to be too stodgy or whatever. And I think you were thinking about having cartoons running in the lunchroom as well too. Again, we don't have to take ourselves too seriously. You know, you're here to make memories for members, and let's not forget that as well too. Keep your members safe, healthy, and well. And safe is kind of a big buzzword right now as well too, to make sure your members stay at your club and bring their family and guests as well. Learn from others. Continually grow from our mistakes. So again, we have this big lawsuit, Cal OSHA issue, government audit, wage and hour, high turnover. Let's learn from it and get a little bit better. And let's have fun winning together and making your club the best for 2021. So I think I'm about 3 minutes over here. But Jessica, I wanted to see if you had any questions at all from the audience, or maybe they'd like to have some insight and talk to their fellow peers as well too.
Yes, so it's Crystal. Actually, are there any questions that you might have for Toni, for Matthew, or Toni and Matthew? If so, just go ahead and drop in the chat box or the Q&A.
Carrie Foster asked if Toni, if you were going to be sharing your pre-termination checklist.
Yes, I will provide that to everybody. And I always say, before you do anything, let's give us 5 minutes and let's go through the questions. And the questions will, again, be our gauges in regards to we just don't have enough, or we haven't done our job at communicating the obvious and giving them an opportunity to improve as well too. So absolutely, yes, Carrie.
Thank you, Toni. That's awesome. Anything else you're seeing, Jessica? I'm not seeing anything. Oh, okay. Does Matthew mind sharing his, hold on here.
His 12-point risk.
His 12-point annual audit risk outline.
Absolutely. I will work with Toni to make sure we get that.
Okay, and then if you send that to us, we'll make sure it gets out to everybody. We can certainly do that if you like. Okay, beautiful. We got a really nice comment from Ron Banaszak. This was amazing. Thank you, Toni and Matthew. So there you go. Okay, any other questions? Going once, going twice, going 3 times.
Okay, so Bill, hopefully you didn't click on Amazon already. You came today, you committed 3 hours of your life. Matthew, I think he thought this was going to be for 20 minutes. So we were here for all 3 hours as a give back, my love to the club industry. Email me and I will be sending you out a signed copy of my book. Also too, I love HR projects. Love them. I love, because what happens is whatever's happening at your club is going to happen at another club. And what I can do is warn, inform, and say, hey, here's something you may want to put on your tickler list of something to keep an eye out. So please contact me, let me know how I can help strategize as well too. But thank you for spending time with us here today. I know we didn't have 8 sessions, but I think we had enough as well too. I'm very excited to see everything that you're doing, leading your team, bringing back the best, having the best leaders, having healthy, happy employees. And again, taking that opportunity to say thank you to your long-term employees as they go off onto that next adventure in their life as well too. And we're going to be on the road show virtually. I have snagged Matthew into doing 2 other sessions with me in March. So I hope you can join us. It's March 8th and March 11th as well, to kind of carrying on in regards to the wellness, and then also to being the purple cow with new ideas for your club as well too. So Crystal, thank you so much for the opportunity. I look forward to seeing all of you, giving you out the book, and please contact me if you have any questions as well too.
And one other thing, Crystal, Toni is also, when she came in this morning, she purchased a double magnum of Silver Oak. And so when you do email Toni for the book, if you would also mention who the 3 individuals up on the wall in our Reagan room are, she's going to be doing a complimentary drawing for someone to receive a double magnum of Silver Oak. You just need to write down the correct 3 names of the people who are on the wall behind us on the screen.
Awesome.
People are all taking a picture of their screen right now. Thank you, Crystal.
Okay.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
And if you want to just be efficient, just send the double mag over and we'll be good.
There you go.
Okay, well, we'd like to remind you of a few things. Never a better time than right now. to bring in a new member from your club. You heard of all the new members that were that joined in January. We've already got 3 in February, and we just plan to really blow this out of the water this year. The only thing is we really need your support to do that. We can only do so much with it, and we're so grateful every time you bring forward a new member. And we hope that they really see it as an investment that you are making in your people, and they really see the value in it. So if you haven't yet paid your chapter dues, and honestly, there's not that many of you, but if you haven't and you're on the call, would you just please handle it? That would be so grateful for that. We rely on our dues line for operations. We have a really small team, and we don't really have a collections division. So it takes away from other good stuff that we're doing to do that. And speaking of collecting, we sent a bill out for $100 to each of you for the GSC Foundation, and for a contribution. Many of you have already made contributions. Some of you have sent us an email saying can't do that this year. That's just fine as well. But if you just let us know either way, excuse me, that would be great, because we will be excuse me, we will be writing off the rest of the $100 that have been charged to you if you would rather not pay it. But just let us know, because we don't want to take it off and then put it back on. So that would be great. So let us know. Job postings, always free. Anything you've got, we're happy to post it. If you'd like to e-blast it, $250 for TGSC members. And just really think of us as you go to fill your positions. We do, in fact, we get some nice comments back about how, oh gee, we posted or we e-blasted and then we were able to hire so-and-so and we got it from the site. So do think of us there. Once again, we'd like to thank our Pro level multi-host partners this morning for sponsoring. We have Advanced Exercise, which is represented by Ruth Saxon. Eustace Chair, represented by Brian Langhorst. We have GSI Executive Search, represented by Terry Anglin, and Members First, represented by Don Taylor. And thank you all that you do for the chapter and for the industry at large. And we'd like to thank each one of you that took your time today to be on this very, very worthwhile webinar. So thank you, everybody. Goodbye.